Hey, everyone out there on my Patreon page, our Patreon page. It's great to see you on a Sunday afternoon. So apologies to Lewis and Patrick. I hope those are the only two that were affected by my scheduling problem, my scheduling issue, my scheduling mistake. That's what it is. So I'm going to wait until we get Lewis, Patrick, and anybody else online. Hopefully that is soon, because I know you're waiting at noon. So I'll get into it for those people that are going to watch a little bit later. This is, of course, Mark, and you generously donate to me $5 per month to help support the channel, to help support the vision, to support the platform as we expand and grow and build and hopefully upgrade, make it better, not just get bigger, but improve the content. So again, I'm waiting for some people to jump online here, also knowing that some of you are going to watch after the fact, so I don't want to delay anything too long. And I don't necessarily have any great speech to give everyone. I'm going to, as soon as some people jump online here, I'm going to send out the link and give you the opportunity to jump online and talk to me directly. So we can do both of those things. There's a number of ways you can talk to me. You can send some messages via Patreon, which are going to be more difficult for me to find. You can leave them in the YouTube live chat. And again, this is just going out to Patreon, so it's just us. But you can leave your comments or questions there in the live chat that is only, again, broadcasted to us. Or I'm going to provide the link, and we'll do so right now for anybody who wants to jump on, just like a guest does. Jump on, or you can call 860-325-3687. We can still keep that phone line open. I don't know how much longer it's going to be open, but 860-325-3687. So you've got 4 ways to contact me. I am going to go into the the Patreon chat here. Let's see, maybe we finally have some folks on here. No, we're still at 0. So the issue here is that I came on a little bit too early, is the issue here, because Patreon, unlike YouTube or StreamYard, which I use, and we can broadcast immediately, forces the user to set up a schedule at least 5 minutes in advance. So we can't go live immediately. So I had to wait another 5 minutes to go live. I had to set a time to go live at least 5 minutes in advance. And great, we've got a couple of people online. So I'm great that you finally found me here. And so I'm going to let you know all the things that I stated off the top, which is number 1, I apologize for the mistake that I made in scheduling because I had an 11 o'clock appointment that I thought for sure I would be able to clear and get here by noon, but I set it up in my calendar and my appointments that I set up a 1 p.m. Live stream here. So I'm sorry. I just confused myself and I put down 1 p.m. where I scheduled noon here. So I was anticipating being here at 1 p.m. The other problem is that I'm notoriously late, and so that's one of my many faults. I wish it was my only fault, but it's usually that I'm not late. It's that my preparation isn't what it should be, which causes me to be late. And so what happens with the live streams, and I see the jokes every time I go live, and they're all justified. They're all justified. None of them are unfair in any way. But I see all the jokes when I go live that Mark's late. Of course, he's late. He's always late. So I am always working to the last minute. And so let's say if I've got a live stream at 6 o'clock and it's 5:40, and I should be setting everything up and preparing and just making sure everything's set up and plugged in and working and doing all that, I'm working on whatever I'm working on, trying to find a sponsor, or I'm working on notes for a new video, or whatever I'm working on, thinking I can push it till 5:55 and then I'll get set up. And so I'm never late here. I'm always ready to go, and I'm always working here. But it's not that I'm not preparing enough time, because I'm trying to squeeze in as much as possible. So I'm going to get to your comments here. The other thing I wanted to mention was, again, I hope everybody, especially that was waiting, it was Lewis and Patrick at noon, got my apology about showing up at 1 p.m. Or, well, I was ready to go at 12:25. So the other issue is that on Patreon, it doesn't allow you to go live immediately. You have to go in advance. You have to schedule a time in advance. So I was ready to go at 12:25. I had to schedule a time in advance of at least 10 minutes. So I started a broadcast, and you guys weren't able to come in. So I apologize for that, but Patreon delayed it another 10 minutes. All right, we've got some comments here. And so if you go to the comments section of Patreon, I've got 4 different ways you can communicate with me. One would be through Patreon, which I don't advise, because then I've got to pull up Patreon on my phone and look at that and monitor the comments. Of course, right here, it seems like everybody's right here. Got Patrick, Phil, Brian are right here. Hopefully Lewis is here as well. And so I can see your comments right here. It's great to see everybody. Most of you, I believe, were here last night for our big 25K celebration. So thank you so much for taking part in that. And you can also grab the link. I sent the link in Patreon. If you've got any interest in coming on as you're not a guest, you're part of our community here. But if you want to come on directly and show your face and talk, then we can do that as well. Also, we've got the phone number. I'll put that on the ticker. There's been a little confusion about the phone numbers recently, so, that's not going to be the right phone number. So let's leave that alone. But if you do want to call, 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. That's a phone line that I established a few years ago through Phone Burner, and it's a buffer phone number. So that's not my phone number. And just like you don't see my phone number, you see 860-325-3687. It's a dummy or buffer phone number. I don't see your phone number either. But I'm trying to get away from this because I've, through the help of Bobby from Volunteer Roadshow, he has set me up with, so I bought this soundboard recently. You can see right here, I bought this soundboard which hopefully makes the phone calls sound much clearer and louder and better. So I don't have to put the cell phone up to the speaker of the laptop. So we have installed this. So this is working and working well. But in addition to that, if you were online with us last night, that was the first time I attempted to pull off the call-in studio by myself. And so it's a login system. It's an application online that is just much more professional than what we've done in the future. So hopefully after a couple of years of promising to upgrade the call-in system, that I've finally achieved that. I know that the sound is better. Now the process should be better, in which you call, you can listen to the show, you're put on hold, you don't have to keep calling and calling and calling. We don't have to listen to that annoying operator who says press 1 and all of that. So hopefully that's working out much better. I just have to get more comfortable with it, because there's a lot to read on the screen, and there's a lot of voice recognition that gives me inaccurate names and topics, but that's okay. We can live with that. 25,015, as I just checked. 25,015, so thank you. As I mentioned last night, I'm not doing anything different today than I was doing 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago. So the success of the channel is because of you. And especially you, especially all of you watching me right here, because think about there being 48 people on Patreon. Excuse my speaking issues. This is like early morning for me. I was up until maybe 4:30 in the morning, and then I had a business call at 11, and so I set the alarm for 10 because there were some forms I had to prepare for my 11 o'clock meeting. And so I know it's 12:30 in the afternoon, but I'm still not really awake. And I'm even keeping earlier hours than I used to when I was at ESPN. And it's cold down here, and I turned up the heat as soon as I came downstairs. But a little hot tea. I'm not a big tea. I really don't like tea at all, but it's hot. So good to see all of you in the chat. Appreciate that, Brian. Congratulations to you as well. All right. If you would like a free face mask, and you didn't hear the presentation last night and the offer last night, then you can get a free face mask. Get a free face mask by going to voiceofcollegefootball.com. So if you go to voiceofcollegefootball.com, you register for free. You just put in your name and email so I can send you an email with a coupon code. You got the coupon code to get a free mask with your favorite team. We've got most of the teams covered. All the teams in the SEC, minus South Carolina. Don't ask me to explain why we have the teams we have and why we don't have other teams, but these are the teams we have. All the teams in the SEC, minus South Carolina, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, Oregon. I think that's the extent of it. So if you want a free face mask, and even if you don't want a free face mask, you get two other benefits. Number one, you get the free face mask. Number two, you get 20% off your first purchase. And then in addition to that, which is definitely going to pay off probably for free, the 20% off the first purchase is probably actually a free offer if you get the $25 gift card. Okay, so get a free face mask, then you get 20% off the first purchase, and then number three, you are entered into a $25 gift card contest. So again, just check out the site. Even if you don't want any of that, just check out the site, voiceofcollegefootball.com. Give us a look over there as well. And it's going to be built out. It just launched a couple of weeks ago. So just give it a look. Give me suggestions if you have any suggestions on what looks better, what's more functional, and what's more effective in terms of a layout. I'm sure there are a ton of you out there that know so much more about this than I, that could give me advice on how to run a better YouTube channel, how to use the analytics better, how to run a better looking website, how to get a sponsor, how to... The sponsorship is not baffling because I haven't made the connections that I need to make to get sponsorships. It's not baffling to me that I don't have a sponsor. It's just a challenge because I was looking at different YouTube channels the other day for a different reason, but I noticed that there were channels that had 1,000 subscribers and they had sponsorships. Now those sponsorships, there are sponsorships and there are sponsorships. There are sponsorships, for example, that are true sponsorships in which if Dick's Sporting Goods showed up and said, Mark, we'll give you $10,000 a month and we want our logo everywhere. We want to take complete control of your sponsorships and be exclusive sponsor, $10,000 per month. I'd say, I'll sign up, boom, Dick's Sporting Goods is everywhere and they're paying me just for what I do. Then there are the sponsorships that you see for the most part. Any sponsorship that you have seen me attached to, it hasn't been a true sponsorship in the sense that they're not paying me. They are paying me if they get sales. If any of you click on the link, purchase anything through me, use the code, then I get 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever it is. So it's not a true sponsorship where I'm making money. That you may see in the description section below the videos that I've had Hero Soap, which seems like a tremendous cause. It is a tremendous cause, or I would not have signed up with them. They're connected to the military. It's run by a former veteran. When I say the military, I don't mean officially the military, the government military, but a former military, a vet, set up Hero Soap to benefit veterans that are in need. And so he set up this this company, and I tried out the product, and it's a good product. Plus, it's a good cause. So, but I've had that link in my description section for 2 years, and I've gotten one sale. So one time somebody bought something and I got 10%, I got $2 or whatever it was. So those aren't really sponsorships in the true sense of the word in terms of support. All right, are you guys still talking in here? So there's 4 ways to talk to me. You can leave comments, as Lewis just did, of course, in the live chat. You can leave a comment on Patreon, but it's kind of tough for me to access. You can call me at 860-325-3687, and I would put that number on the screen, but I actually wiped it out, 860-325-3687, because I'm transitioning to another call-in situation with a new number. So pretty soon you can all erase 860-325-3687 from your memory, and we'll replace it with the new number. And you can also, you can grab the link. I provided the link in Patreon, and you can jump on and talk to me here. Lewis, every time I try your URL, it sends me to your YouTube page. Okay. All right. So Lewis, you're going to MarkRogersTV.com, correct? Yes. So MarkRogersTV.com was a site that I set up a long time ago, and I used to have unique information and content there. That just became too much for me to run a website. And so I just redirected it to my YouTube channel, and that's what that has been for a long, long time, at least 5 years. So that's what that is correct, Lewis. If you go to MarkRogersTV.com, don't go to MarkRogersTV.com. Go to voiceofcollegefootball.com. If you go to voiceofcollegefootball.com, then you're going to see a menu bar at the top, and one of the options is register for free. And then you can give us the information so I can send you the coupon code for the free mask, the 20% off. And you don't need to purchase anything to be eligible for the $25 gift card. You just need to get the free mask, okay? You just need to send us an email for the free mask so I can get you the coupon code for the free mask, and then you're eligible for the $25 gift card, but you also get 20% off your first purchase, which would be great if you find something there. There's every team in the Power 5 with items, and also some Group of 5 teams there as well. Okay. You guys can talk college football with me as well. I know I'm talking business, and some of you have given me feedback that you would like to know more about the business, and so that's why I'm talking business here. But you guys can give me college football comments and questions. Patrick says most preseason polls have in some order Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. If things go according to Hoyle, I don't know what that is. Who do you see getting left out of the playoffs? Oh, well, that's kind of a loaded question, Patrick. It depends what you've got to give me a scenario. I don't know what that scenario would be. You have Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. So the first question is, well, Clemson. The first question is Alabama and Georgia playing in the SEC. So they would be playing in the SEC championship game. So there's got to be a winner of that game. Those two teams have to have records. Clemson and Georgia play early in the season. Who wins that game? Do all these teams go undefeated otherwise? I don't know what your scenario is. Because I know at least between Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia, there's going to be 2 losses there because there's going to be 2 games played. So we already have 2 losses. Lewis, let me know if you're successful in going to voiceofcollegefootball.com. And it's Voice of College Football, not the, it's voiceofcollegefootball.com. If you guys ever have any suggestions, whether it be here on Patreon or on my YouTube channel, just let me know. Suggestions about content, suggestions about anything, especially if you could give me some insight into how to be more effective in gaining more subscribers and viewers through titles and topics and thumbnails. And please don't take any offense if you give me a suggestion and I don't take it, because I'll give you an explanation. I will not just ignore it. I will give you an explanation as to why I may not do it, because people will give me requests all the time, and I'll say, if I can get to it, I'll do it, but I may not do it because I already know nobody's going to watch this video. Like right now, I'm doing a series on disputed national championships just because I enjoy it. I just enjoy talking about seasons past where there were disputed national champions. And we've already done 1983, 84, 90, 96, 97, and 2000. But I just enjoy doing those. I don't make any money off of them. Only 200 or 300 or 400 people watch those videos. So it's not worth my time. But I just enjoy it. Okay. So this Hoyle person, this is a person or a formula or something, apparently. According to Hoyle, is a playing cards expression. It means according to expectations. I understand that, Patrick, but you have to let me know what happened in your scenario. Clemson and Georgia played. Who won? Alabama and Georgia played. Who won? If things go according to expectations, who do you see getting left out of the playoffs? I just need to have a scenario, and I would tell you who's going to be left out of the playoffs. I gave you my top 4 teams the other day. Now, those top 4 teams are based strictly on talent and performance on the field, expected performance on the field, and their ability. I didn't measure it against the schedule. So let's say if Georgia played in the Pac-12, I would have not only had them number 1, but a lock to make the playoff because they would have been playing a much easier schedule. Lewis, I tried it again. It just brings links to Keith Jackson in your YouTube page videos. Keith Jackson. Okay, try this. Let's do this. Here we go. I just went right to it. Okay, Lewis, try that. Hopefully that's a link. Hopefully that took it as a link, and you can just click on that so you can go right to it. Brian, I'm really enjoying those videos about disputed national championships. I love doing those. I love doing those. Nobody watches them, though. The people that like them really like them, but nobody else. And it's probably not that they couldn't be popular. It's that much of the traffic that I get comes from suggested videos and comes from keywords and comes from posting on topics that are relevant. So when LSU is in the midst of a scandal and I post an LSU scandal video and people are searching for information and for videos on LSU, because that's what's going on, then there's a lot of churn and there's a lot of traffic that's going to come my way. There's no reason on March 5th of 2021 for people to be out there searching 1997 disputed national champions. So even though that's overall a topic that a lot of college football fans would like to hear more about and discuss and debate, it's not tied to it's not relevant. It's not in the moment. So thank you for that, Brian. I enjoy doing those. I love doing those. Man, maybe I should do this. I wonder how many, they don't take that much time, but they do take time because I try to do them justice by, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to not see an angle or something that could have happened or miss something. So I got to tell you that the 5 or 6 that I've done, I could have done in my sleep, but I still went back and went through the rankings. I go through the rankings prior to postseason play and after postseason play and review the scenarios to make sure that I didn't miss anything. But I could have done those basically in my sleep, but I don't. I research just to make sure I'm remembering anything and not forgetting, because again, even though the polls put certain teams in position to win a national championship, the reason we're doing this is also to see, was Virginia Tech 10-1, just like all these teams up at the top, but they were number 8. And why were they left down at number 8? Just because at that point in their history, they weren't respected? Well, that's stupid. Let's look at it. Or maybe there was a reason. They lost 52-15 to Florida State. And then, okay, I can understand. But I enjoy doing those too. I keep thinking what I'm going to do. Glad that worked, Lewis. Thank you. Thank you for taking interest. What I have a mind to do is to do one every day and just go back through time and start with 2020, which seems ridiculous. And I will catch a ton of flack and abuse and criticism for doing 2020. But my point would be, Not that Alabama's national championship's disputed. They went undefeated, won the SEC, won the championship game, went to the playoff, blew out 2 teams. They were clearly the best team and earned it. There is no disputing that Alabama earned it, but because of the flawed playoff system, there were teams left out of the playoff that had just as much of a right to be in the playoff as especially Notre Dame. So that would be the point to doing 2020. It would not be to challenge Alabama's national championship that was won on the field. It would be to say, we've got this stupid playoff system, and this selection committee chose Notre Dame. And I'm not bashing them for choosing Notre Dame, because when it came right down to it, I chose Notre Dame as well. I said that I believed that they made the best choice. Was it the right choice? I don't know, but it was the best choice in my opinion. I would have made the same choice. But my point is, we shouldn't be making choices that, for different reasons, Oklahoma, Cincinnati, and Texas A&M all had similar claims to the 4th spot. Cincinnati, because they were a conference champion and undefeated. And then they later showed that they were a pretty darn good football team against Georgia. Oklahoma won a conference championship that Notre Dame did not, and they were on an 8-game winning streak. And then for Texas A&M, it was that they only lost 1 game, just like Notre Dame, and they lost to the #1 team in the country. So they all had a claim. Notre Dame was chosen. And some would argue Ohio State was chosen because even though they went undefeated, they only played 7 games. They only played 6 games. They won the 7th in the playoff. So I don't want to leave your question unanswered, but again, I would like to have a scenario. But Patrick, I'll answer your question as best I can determine what you're asking. It means according to expectations. Well, the expectations are that Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten easily. Clemson's going to win the ACC easily. Oklahoma's going to win the Big 12 easily. That the Pac-12 is going to come down to Oregon and USC. That the SEC is going to come down to Alabama, then Georgia, then Texas A&M, and maybe LSU, but Alabama's still the favorite. So that Alabama's in, Clemson's in, Oklahoma's in. Those are the expectations. Then Ohio State might have a weaker resume, not because of the schedule, but because they might lose a game that has to be compared to Georgia, maybe losing an SEC championship game. But again, I have to have a scenario, because even as I play this out in my mind, well, what's the scenario? The expectations are that all those teams either go undefeated or lose 1 game. But which is it? The committee's going to look at conference championships, wins and losses, and the dominance in those wins and losses against the schedule, against the opponents. Phil B. Peter Warwick, Reggie Bush, Percy Carbon. Should there be another player in my list of elusive ankle breakers? Yes. Let me think about it for a second, but there should be. There should be. Who else would be on that list? Well, I would say that oh my goodness, I'm blanking out on his first name. That played at Oregon about 10 years ago. Anthony Thomas. How about where did Dante Hall play college football? I don't even know where he played college football, but in the NFL, he's the best. I know there are punt and kickoff returners with better career resumes, but for a 3 to 4 year span, he's the craziest I've ever seen. Dante Hall. Dexter McCluster at Ole Miss. I would say that Dante Wilson was supposed to be that at Ohio State, but he's nowhere close to those guys. Ankle busters. Ankle, man, I'm coming up with so many names, but I don't want to put them in that category. Maybe somebody else can chime in with some other ones. Ted Ginn was more of just a straight line speed guy who he's the most electric guy I've ever seen, just flat out turning the corner. Barry Sanders. Anthony Thomas. Yeah, I was blanking on his name for a minute. Anthony Thomas, Barry Sanders. See, there are guys that have been around and I said Dexter McCluster, there have been guys that have been just as electric on a given play than some of those guys. They just didn't put the career together. Man, that's a great question, because I keep stopping short on naming a few other guys because I don't think they're quite there. Thanks, Phil. I like doing them. I love doing them. Brian says, I'm a big history person, but I grew up in the BCS era, so I'm always interested in those weird national championships before. How did the BCS come around, and what was the reaction to it? Okay, the BCS came in stages. All right, so I don't want to explain too much because many people already are on board with this and understand this, so I don't want to bore people. But anyway, for years and years and years and years, decades, each conference was tied to a bowl game, much like they are now, but it was more stringent. It was more, there were not conditions around it. It was just set that the Rose Bowl would host the Big Ten champion and the Pac-10 champion, or before that, the Pac-8 champion. And the Orange Bowl would host the Big 8 champion, which is a precursor to the Big 12, Big 8 champion, and a at-large team. The Southwest Conference champion, which is much of the Big 12 right now, the Southwest Conference champion would host the Cotton Bowl against an at-large team. The SEC champion would go to the Sugar Bowl against an at-large team. The ACC champion would go to the, it was at one point the Gator Bowl, then the Citrus Bowl. Okay. This was up until the early 90s. Then what was formed was called the Bowl Coalition, because, of course, those bowl tie-ins would sometimes create matchups that were not conducive to producing a national championship. So, for example, in 1994, Penn State was undefeated and number 1 or 2 in the country, depending on the poll, and they were playing the 20th ranked 8-3 Oregon Ducks in the Rose Bowl because of the Pac-10, Big Ten agreement. So somebody came up with the idea of a bowl coalition, and that involved getting teams The 1 and 2 teams ranked together in a bowl game, but the Big Ten and the Pac-10 were tied to the Rose Bowl and didn't want to give up their agreement. So the Big Ten and the Pac-10 did not take part in this agreement of the Bowl Coalition. So let's see, starting in 1992, I believe, was the first year of the Bowl Coalition. So in 1991, we had a split national championship because Washington went to the Rose Bowl and beat Purdue. And no, they beat Michigan. I'm thinking 10 years later, 1991, Washington went to the Rose Bowl and beat Michigan. And Miami went to the 91. They went to the Orange Bowl and beat Nebraska as an at-large team. They beat Nebraska, and they split a national championship. So then in 1992 was the first year that we had the Bowl Coalition determine a 1 versus 2 matchup. Before, it was just kind of haphazard. If it happened 1 versus 2, then that was just a bonus. And of course, as you know from watching me, listening to me, just because it's 1 and 2 doesn't mean it's the best matchup or the teams that should be. What about number 3? Maybe number 3 is just as good as 2 or 1. But anyway, regardless, at least the Bowl Coalition improved the situation by getting 1 and 2 together starting in 1992, where we had Alabama win host the Sugar Bowl as the SEC champion and play Miami, and they were 1 and 2 in the country. In 93, it put Florida State and Nebraska together at the Orange Bowl, 1 and 2. But then in 94, Penn State was one of the top 2 teams, but they went to the Rose Bowl, so it didn't take effect there. 95, it took effect because we had 1 and 2 play at the Fiesta Bowl, Nebraska and Florida. In 96, it didn't come into play because Arizona State was number 1 in the country, but they went to the Rose Bowl to play Ohio State. And so we had a 1-3 matchup with Florida State. We had a 1-4 matchup. Did I say 1-3, 2-3, whatever the poll was, 2-3, Florida State, and we had Arizona State going to the Rose Bowl. So the Pac-10 and the Big Ten kept its agreement, did not want to participate and blow up the tradition of the Rose Bowl. So it worked some years. And when I say worked, it truly didn't work, but at least it got the top 2 ranked teams together in 1992, 93, 95, 95. That was the end of it. So out of 92, 93, 95, 3 out of 6 years, it got the top 2 teams together. But the other 3 years, there was either a Big Ten team or a Pac-10 team that was number 1 or 2, so they didn't get involved. So it still didn't. So then in 1998, there was discussion going into 1998, and the determination was made a couple of years earlier, but it took contracts to be settled and all of that, and the process to be approved to go into 1998 in the BCS era. You know, with BCS, to incorporate computers into it. And I had a long and frustrating conversation with a caller last night who I don't think understood that the BCS was more than computers. He thought that it was nothing but computers determining the national championship game, but it wasn't computers, just computers. I think I might be wrong on this because I want to get this accurate, but I believe the human vote, I know, was 2/3 of the BCS formula. So from 1998 to 2013, we had this computer formula, apparently, supposedly, to many out there believing that it was determining the national championship matchup, but it was 2/3 human vote. And I'm almost positive that that 2/3 human vote always overrode the computers anyway. So it was a vote, it was a human vote for those 16 seasons anyway. Well, we can go back as far as we can. So, Patrick, thank you for throwing in Barry Sanders, as I did. We could go all the way back to Hugh McElhaney. How about Hugh McElhaney? Throw him in there. It's an ankle breaker. How about Gale Sayers, the Kansas Comet? Phil. Mark, you mentioned before that the states of California, Texas, and Florida were top 3 recruiting states. Then you mentioned Georgia was number 4. Which state would be number 5 in recruiting? So, I just want you to know that's not my opinion. Then those are just it's just the way it is, and they hold true year to year to year. And it appears as though between California, Texas, and Florida, that Florida and Texas have moved to the top, and California is third, firmly a third of those 3, where it used to be, depends how you look at it, changes year to year, but now it's almost decidedly that California's third, and the other 2 are above them. Excuse me. So, for example, I looked at this year's recruiting classes by state, and both Texas and Florida had in the range of 50 to 55 4-stars, and California had about 20 less. So I already went into looking at that with the thought that California had dropped to third, a clear third. Now, if you look at Georgia, they're pushing California. Georgia is pushing California. Number 5 is an interesting conversation because you start to run into, if you truly value per capita, then Louisiana and the District of Columbia, which is not a state, but may soon become one. The state of Louisiana is really high per capita, but it's got a small population, so it doesn't produce the sheer numbers. I don't have anything set up to go online here. But off the top of my head, I would say if you're just looking at sheer numbers, in the running for state number 5 would be Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I'd have to look at Maryland and Virginia too, and North Carolina. There's a whole lot of states together there that are close. Whole lot of states. I don't think it's still Ohio. I think Ohio's more like 7th or 8th. It used to be Ohio. It's so close, I can't clearly state who would be number 5. I can just tell you the teams that would be in the running. And again, that would be something that I would want to put some metrics to and produce a video, but I don't know how many people would be interested in watching a video of me determining an order list of states in recruiting, because again, I just wouldn't throw it out haphazardly. I'd really look at it, not just to look at 1 year and say, well, that's what it is. No, 1 year, a certain state can have a strong year and other states can have a slightly down year. That doesn't mean that should change, that ranking should change based on 1 year. But I would say Louisiana, just off the top of my head, just based on what I've looked at, but I'm not holding firm to Louisiana. It's very close. Louisiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee's getting better, Alabama. Really, as you go up the Atlantic coast, Maryland's pretty strong. New Jersey's pretty strong state, but not number 5. They're in the top 10-ish. Sure, absolutely. Now Lewis is able to see Gale Sayers apparently, but yeah, Gale Sayers unfortunately had a very short NFL career. 6 seasons, I believe, 65 through 71. I'll let you guys know because you guys are the insiders I'll tell you a whole lot more than I'll tell everybody else, that unless things change and somebody backs out on me, I'm going to start an NFL channel. Okay. Now, that's way beyond me to start an NFL channel and serve the NFL fan that's currently engaged in the NFL. So I'm not that foolish to believe that, because I can't even keep up with what I'm doing now with college football. So it's not going to be an NFL channel for the NFL fan that wants to talk about the current state of the game and the transactions and the free agency and the mini camps and all that. Hey, if I could clone myself, sure, I would do that. I would love that. But I thought in having some conversations, once we got past the national championship game in particular, and a lot of people started to comment in the live chat about the NFL and playoff games and the Super Bowl and would ask me questions. I've had this thought in the past, so it just didn't come up in the last few weeks, but it was brought to the forefront again. So I thought, what do I know better than anything? And that's for as much as I know about college football, and I would like to know more, but for as much as I know about college football history, I probably know NFL history better than anything. So it was just coincidence that was on my brain at the same time that I had a buddy call me, contact me and say, man, I would love to do an NFL channel. I'm like, well, yeah, I've had that thought too, but I only have one of me and I can't keep up with college football. So we came up with the idea of doing a niche is the way it's pronounced. I used to always say niche, but I guess it's niche. A niche. Not covering the NFL currently, but from a historical perspective, covering the NFL. We're covering, let's say this week we're going to talk about the Immaculate Reception. And next week we're going to talk about, Super Bowl 13. And then the next week we're going to talk about the NFL AFL merger. That kind of stuff. So you guys are the first to know that unless things fall through, there will be an NFL channel hosted by me. But it's going to be vintage NFL. And I just found out the other day, unfortunately, we cannot use the name NFL. We have to say pro football, I guess, or come up with another name. But we can't use the name NFL. It's copyrighted. Because I thought the name Vintage NFL would be perfect. Short and sweet and to the point. Vintage and classy. Vintage NFL. But we can't use that. The unfortunate thing, Phil, as Phil states that he's going to look up videos on Gale Sayers, is we will never really see the greatness of those players in the past, because how much of Gale Sayers' career is on video, on film? And he might have played at a time, 1965 to 71, with NFL films around, with most of the games being broadcasted at that point, that we may have to go back a little bit further. That when you see highlights of these guys, you need to understand that for many of them, that's all we've got. Like if Y.A. Tittle played 15 years in the NFL, and he played 12 to 14 games per season, that most of that, there was not film of most of those games. So we don't necessarily see his best. We're seeing just whatever's available. Brian is asking, do you think the ACC should have forced Notre Dame into the conference full-time for letting them play in the ACC last year? It seemed to make people care about the ACC a little more. Okay, I feel so strongly about that I will tell you this, Brian. I probably cannot speak as passionately about it right now On any confusion out there for the old timers who are going to be calling the. Okay. This will do a much better job of explaining my thoughts and feelings. Boom, this is perfect. This is perfect. Hang on, sorry again. All right. Here you go. Go watch this video. That's what I believe the matter to be. Thanks, Brian. And I would think we could get a pretty good following there. If I told everybody on the college football side that I've got an NFL channel and it's about NFL history. So you're not going to get a forecast on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers NFL draft for 2021 or anything like that. Although we might, you know what? I do have my guy Rick Saratella from the NFL Draft Bible that I bring on the main channel all the time, this time of year, to get us ready for the NFL draft. So he'd be the perfect guy to bring over there for that. Yeah, Brian, I just think it would be easier, and I could stumble through it right now, but I know that I was laser focused and on fire and had a point to make. So I'm going to explain that, and did at that point much better. Probably would be missing about 5 of my points right now. So yeah. All right. So just to get everybody caught up on what's going on here is yeah, the cleanup, we haven't cleaned up from the celebration yet. It's a pretty massive cleanup that we have to undertake here. So it's going to take quite a bit. Here. I need a pin. So I don't have a pin available, and then I'm going to have to walk these back to the kitchen to store way up in the top shelf of the cupboards again. So that's going to take some exhaustive cleanup and manpower. So we'll work on that this afternoon to get the big celebration scene cleaned up. But yeah, I'm happy that we've taken the first step with the audio board for the call-in show. Bam. So we've got the audio cleaned up. It's much better. Then on top of that now, going forward, starting last night, I'm able to operate the call-in studio. That's much better. So for those of you that like to call the show, you can listen to the show while you're waiting. You don't have to keep calling and calling and calling. You're put on hold. You don't have to listen to the annoying operator. I'm fine with that. Now, I was given an app that will allow me to download music that's not copyrighted, that's accessible and available and approved, and sound effects. Now, I don't see my show being high on sound effects. It's not really the type of show that's lending itself to buffoonery, but it might come in handy, so we'll see. I could do some sound. I could do, like, what I'm using this for right now is like 1% of the capacity of what this could do. So, and I want you guys to know that your contributions make these things possible. Your contributions make these things possible, because I've poured like $4,000 or $5,000 into equipment in the last couple months. So, man, if we could unlock the secret of getting other people over here on Patreon, because what I don't understand is people will throw me super chats, which I greatly appreciate. Either they basically, though, and I will tell all of you that if you add any additional contribution, then you really should go to Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App and give it to me directly. So go to Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App if you're going to contribute directly. But for all those people that are certainly willing to throw me a few bucks every so often, I am grateful for that. But I wonder why they won't take me up on the Patreon offer at 16 cents a day, $5 a month. I don't really get that. But anyway, and then we've got this baby that is a switcher. If you understand anything about television, a TD is a technical director, and he works at a switcher. And at ESPN, the thing's massive and costs about $100,000. Yeah, something in that range. And anyway, we have a switcher in every control room, production control room, in which there were, oh my word, 20 some of them, 25, let's say. And there would be a massive switcher in each one to be used by the technical director. This is a $800 switcher that I'm going to incorporate that's going to allow me to build graphics packages and to make this look sharp. But that's going to take a big learning curve. So we got that. And bought this nice Canon camera and tripod. And with the tripod and everything involved and the warranties, this was a couple $1,000s. And I put it together. I tested it out to capture some video. But this is going to take a learning curve too to implement it here. So someday the video is going to look much better, hopefully. Otherwise, I wasted my money. But hopefully the video is going to look much better someday. But the first level to this is going to be just recording my taped, recorded segments with this. Making sure that that works, and I can transfer that so I can edit. And then the next step would be to implement this into the live streams. So the video at some point should look much better. You'll be able to see all my wrinkles. Yeah. So hopefully that pays off soon. All right. And there's other stuff. I got a Mac Mini here that was needed because the webcam that I'm using is on a MacBook Pro that's like a 2014 or 15. And then I had a MacBook Air that was a 2011 that I fried. And the complaints that I was making the other day about my keyboard, there it is. Now, fortunately, what I did, I went down to Walmart. I bought a $10 keyboard. I plugged it in, was able to change the setting that activated this keyboard. So the setting got changed, even though I didn't even come close to even knowing where to change the settings. It somehow changed. And so then I didn't have access to this, so I couldn't log in to change the setting for this. So I had to buy another keyboard to go in and change the setting for that to make this operable again. And then I got my trackpad here. So it takes time and effort and coordination to do all these things, and above all, resources, money. So thank you for your contributions, but it would be so nice with 25,000 subscribers. 1%. Think about this. We got 1% here. 1% of those 25,000, it would be 2,500. No, it would be 250. And I would like more than that, but that would be a nice place to be, 250, more so than 48. We're at 48. I think I topped out at 63. I've lost about 15 people. Then you get your earpiece here and so forth, which I'm still not a fan of using, but that's the way it goes. All right, anybody else got anything in here? Yeah, there might be a time and place for the sound effects. It's really not my thing, but there might be a few things that would be kind of just to add a little bit more to it, make it a little bit more interesting. I saw where Pigskin Pete, he's got some kind of a thing that he recorded when people say something stupid, I don't remember, shoot, what he said in response on this recorded piece, something like, I can't even come up with it. Brian, as an Alabama fan, you should do a series on fake claimed national championships. Yeah, there are those by Alabama, and those are the most famous because they have the most, so people are going to tear them down. But there are others. Then you got on the flip side, you've got Auburn, who in 2004, I don't know that they would have beaten Oklahoma or USC, but in 2004, they went undefeated as the SEC champion and weren't given a shot. So I would claim a national championship if I was Auburn for 04. I would. Okay, folks, been on here for about 65 minutes. And again, for those of you that came on board at noon, I apologize because, again, I sent out the notification and put noon on the post, and then I went back to my calendar or vice versa, and I put 1 o'clock because I didn't know how that would conflict with my 11 o'clock appointment. So I'm going to be going live at 3 on the Miami channel. At 3 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to go live on the Miami channel because we've had many comments there, as we typically do, but in particular to Uncle Lou's appearance on my show, and I clipped that off and posted a video on the Miami channel and got a lot of Canes fans in uproar, enraged, which I think is kind of silly, but we'll have fun with it. So I want to respond to their comments because I'm not one to hide. A few people have said from time to time that I've hidden, and that's kind of crazy. All right, very good. Very good. It's great to see Patrick, Phil, Brian, Lewis, all of you here. Did I miss anything? Yes, we got the Alabama channel. So the way we're doing those to Brian and everybody else is that we're starting team-specific channels, and I'm being very honest and open and transparent about it. You're not going to see anything over there that you can't get on my main channel, at least to start. So to get the content generated and going, what we do is, let's say I do a segment with Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown, Alabama, and I just take, we talk for 30 minutes. I'll just take that full 30 minutes and I'll just throw it on my main channel. And in that 30 minutes, we talked about recruiting, we talked about the coaching staff changes, we talked about the offensive line, we talked about defensive end. I will clip those off into specific topic videos and post those individually to the Alabama channel. So there are two advantages to subscribing to the team-specific channel out of the gate. Number one is you don't have to weed through everything else to find Alabama. Number two, you can just lock in. If you're only interested in the quarterback battle, then you watch that video. If you're only interested in the recruiting update, then you just watch that. And then number three, once we get to a certain point, like the Miami channel, like the Ohio State channel, then we will have unique content there. I'm also coming to agreement. Here's another thing that we're doing just recently that you guys will be privy to, is I'm getting into agreements with YouTubers and podcasters to have them send me segments to populate some of these channels. So in addition to all the stuff that you'll get, for example, on the Alabama channel from us, from me, you will get some podcast clips from Alabama podcasts. Now, Alabama's a bad example right now because I've not found those contacts yet for Alabama, but I've done it with Texas, Oklahoma, Florida State, Michigan. So, all right, very good. Yeah, Lewis, 3 o'clock on the Miami channel, and we're going to answer the Miami. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on there, and I'm not going to advertise the phone number. I really don't want to take phone calls, but if somebody calls me, I'll take the phone call. If somebody remembers the phone line and calls, I'll pick it up. But it's to basically go through all the comments to the channel and answer the comments. So we'll see at 3 Eastern on the Miami channel. It's great to have all of you here. You know that I'm so appreciative of your support, for being here for me, and you're my core. So we will see you soon.